Morning. Here we are walking down Bradley Road, having just got off the train at Enfield Lock. And yes, we're back in London to do the final part of the London Outer Orbital Path. Today, we're hoping to walk to Chingford and hoping to get from Chingford to Chigwell. But heavy rain's forecast, so we'll just have to see how we go. If it's pouring with rain, I think we'll bail out at Chingford. Nothing worse than walking in the pouring rain. Anyway, today we're going to be walking through Epping Forest. We're going to be walking along the sacred River Lee and into the Roding Valley. So it promises to be a fantastic walk. Let's go. And here we are back at the Turkey Brook, which is where we finished last time. And we're going to walk off down there to start this section of the Outer Orbital Path. This quiet, cloudy Saturday morning. And here we are actually at the Enfield Lock on the River Lee navigation, which we're going to walk down for a bit now. Lovely. Bit industrial around here, but in a nice way, I think. And now we're off the Lee navigation on the River Lee itself, just for a short while. And behind that big embankment and that lovely old building is King George's Reservoir, and I guess that was the old waterworks associated with the reservoir. Walking out into the countryside now as the clouds lower. And as we walk over this modern steel bridge, once again we dip out of London, this time into Essex and into Sewardstone Marsh Nature Reserve. So it's been a while since we were on the loop. The last section we did towards the end of August, just one day. That was the one that precedes this video, Cockfosters to Enfield Lock. And now it's 2nd of October. It's good to be out walking the loop again. Brilliant. And now we're in somewhere called the Gardens of Firdaus. And at some point over that last field, apparently we crossed back from the western half of the world to the eastern half of the world. We've been in the western half of the world, on this walk anyway, since the third walk. So good to be back in the eastern half of the world. And one of the advantages of a climb, as always, is the view. So there we are, back the way we came, towards the Lee Valley, King George Reservoir, that power station, and beyond Enfield. And once more into the woods. So apparently this is Seaward Stone Green, which counts as an outlying area of Epping Forest. So here we are, just brushing the great ancient forest of Epping. I suspect not for the last time on this section of the loop. We shall see. Particularly dangerous little bit of the loop here, walking down this moderately busy road with no pavement, hopefully not for very long. So now off that busy road we're walking into the national headquarters of the scouting movement. Tell us about it, Judith.
This former farm was donated to the Scout Association in 1919 as a campsite and training centre. It's often been the location of major national and international gatherings and now has a conference centre.
Wow, how did you know all that? Oh, you're reading a book. And this is the Scouts Communication Centre, from which it can communicate scoutishness all around the world. And off down Chigwell Lane, away from the Scouts headquarters, trying to avoid the mud. Just crossing over this little stream to walk around the edges of Hawk's Wood, which is on the fringe of Epping Forest. Hawk's Wood is apparently 2.5 miles wide and 12 miles long, so fairly big wood. So we're walking through this beautiful woodland. Just to my right is Epping Forest Golf Club. Bit ironic, Epping Forest Golf Club, given that they undoubtedly had to chop down some of Epping Forest to form their golf club. This area was in fact earmarked for development in the 19th century, but due to intense local opposition, the City of London bought it and preserved it for posterity. And thank goodness they did, otherwise we'd be walking through a housing estate now. Always reassuring to see a loop sign after a noticeable absence of them. Shows we're still on the right track. So across this car park, and we're more or less in Chingford, and the rain's coming down as predicted. So now we have a decision to make. Are we going to bail? Are we going to get our wet weather gear on and press on? And here is the fairly pretty little outer suburb of Chingford, as the rain strengthens. So now we decide, do we carry on the loop or do we bail out to the station? So there's a shop in Keswick that says there's no such thing as bad weather, just the wrong clothing. So we're going to tog up with our wet weather gear and press on to Chigwell. We may have to stop filming if the camera gets too wet, but here goes. And apparently this is Queen Elizabeth's hunting lodge, an example of a hunting stand where you would watch the hunt below. There's a big extension out the back which apparently contains one big staircase that, legend has it, Queen Elizabeth was in the habit of riding her horse up. Must have been a bit messy. And that, my friends, is a Premier Inn. Maybe it's a Premier Inn. Looks very nice. And while the rain isn't absolutely pouring down, nice to shelter under this old hornbeam by this obelisk and have a quick coffee. Back in Essex. There's the Warren Wood pub, if you want to break your journey here, which we don't. Sign of the times. There's the petrol queue to go. And away from that madness, back into the countryside. Okay, so now we're walking around the outskirts of Buckhurst Hill. You can walk down to Buckhurst Hill station on the Central line if you want to, but the rain's currently light, so we're cracking on to our ultimate goal of Chigwell. Threading our way through Buckhurst Hill on these little byways between the houses. And here we have the Central line, and we'll be getting on this at Chigwell, ultimately to take us back to London. So well and truly in the Roding Valley here, walking down an aptly named green walk, which is a green walk between the houses. So we're going to follow this out of Buckhurst Hill into the Roding Valley and towards Chigwell. And we have the M11, which you can hear in the background, to thank for this rather picturesque lake full of wildlife. It was originally a gravel pit dug to provide gravel for the nearby road. And here is the River Roding, another one of London's great rivers, along with the River Lee, wending its way down to the Thames. Still not too far from the Roding, it's still in lovely woodland, but the M11's just to my left, hidden. And here we are again, in one of those magical little places in the cracks of civilization. And here at last, after meandering around by the Roding, the loop finally crosses the M11. There we are, traffic on a rainy Saturday afternoon. What joy! Well, not a very auspicious end to this section. It's about a mile down this road to Chigwell. Hopefully there'll be a pub there, and then train back to London. So I don't think I'll film much of this, but I'll say goodbye at the end. See you in a bit. So here we are, the end of section 19 of the London Outer Orbital Path. Tomorrow we'll go to the end of the road and turn left to carry on with section 20, but for now we're going to go right to the pub and the station. Hope you've enjoyed this walk, a bit wet. Come along with me on the next one. Bye for now.